Hello, and welcome to Sobercast. We provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast format. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into the virtual basket. Also, if you're a member of NA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, NAPOD. NAPOD features NA speakers and workshops in the same format as Sobercast. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for NAPOD, N-A-P-O-D, all one word, on any podcast player app, or go to napod.xyz if you'd like to listen online. Hope you enjoy the podcast and have a great day.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Peggy M, and I'm an alcoholic. And through the grace of God and fellowship of people like you and sponsorship, I have been sober since February the 4th, 1964. I'm very grateful for that. I have just had the best time, and I just want to thank everybody that has been involved with this. Thanks, Zan. Thanks, Zan and Linda and Steve, the elfin Steve, for picking me up from the airport, taking off some time from work. He was being a little bit martyred about it beforehand, but I just thought I'd mention it, just so it's on tape now, Steve. I truly love the energy in this room. I've always fed off the energy in Alcoholics Anonymous. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. If you get nothing else from this morning besides the fact that one fact, I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love it with all my heart. It has given me everything I have. And I have a lot. I'm not sad. I mean, I'm so right-brained, it's terrible. I'm just like Devaney, which is even scarier, if we had gotten together when we were drinking, we'd have been locked up till we died, I think. Anyway, it's given me everything I have. It's given me my dignity. It's given me my integrity. It's given me a brain. It's given me my child. It's given me my husband. It's given me my faith. It's given me my God. It's given me my friends. It's given me my employment. It's given me my character. It's given me my talent as an artist. It's given me my appreciation for the power of God. It's given me the ability to enjoy every day and some of the events in it. And I had none of those things when I got here. I had none of those things. I was a depressive, belligerent, arrogant, angry alcoholic. And I still have the seeds of all of that in me today because I'm a human being. And as a human being, I have my frailties, I have my faults. But I think that as alcoholics and as members of Al-Anon, that one of the problems that I always had was that I loved so deeply that I couldn't stand it. I couldn't afford to feel it because it hurt me too much. I love my child, who is, of course, a man now. I love my grandchild, and I may have another one by the time I get home, to distraction. But when I was drinking, I couldn't afford to do that because there was one thing that stood in my way. It stood in the sunlight of the Spirit. And that was the fact that I had to drink. It was the most powerful thing in my life. And it stood in the way of the sunlight. And now, I think Alcoholics Anonymous is really kind of a program of subtraction. It takes away a lot of stuff that stands in the way of wanting, all I ever wanted in my life was to love and be loved. I always wanted that. I wanted to love and be loved, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't love and I couldn't be loved. And now I can. And my sobriety is so dear to me that I feel it a privilege to be sober, a privilege to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. It is not my right. There are people in my group, and I presume in your group, who believe that being sober is their right. I had absolutely nothing to do with it other than I drank and showed up. God was the answer. That was the thing that was the answer for me. Being a sponsor was an answer. The meetings that I attend are answers. Respecting the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous is an answer. There are vast places in Alcoholics Anonymous who have no idea what the traditions are. And it is my responsibility and your responsibility to let them know what they are. We need to make this thing safe. This is AA. This is the thing that saved my life. It's the thing that I presume you believe saved yours. This is a dignified, integritous thing. We need to keep it like it was, like it is. We need to save it from all of the outside things and the inside things that might blow it apart. It's scary. But I have the responsibility of carrying that message, of keeping my meeting, of sitting down and shutting up and listening to the steps, of listening to the traditions. How does it irritate you? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. But it irritates me when I'm sitting in meetings and I can't hear the steps because somebody behind me is talking. What about a new guy? What if I was new? What if I was brand new? What if I had walked in and I needed to hear the third step prayer more? I say it every day on my knees, at least once. I put people in the third step prayer. God, I offer him to you. Build with him whatever you can do with him. Oh, please, taking me's yours. What if they need to hear that? And they can't hear it because some yahoo who's got an ego the size of mine is back there talking because he's got something important to say. My sponsor said, you sit up front. I've been sitting up front ever since. I sat up front and I thought she was picking on me. And she wasn't picking on me. What she was doing was making sure I didn't escape. She made me sit up front so I had to concentrate. And I had to listen. And I had to pay attention to the speaker. She made me go up and thank people afterwards. I said, I don't want to thank them. I didn't like their talk. I thought it was lousy. And she said, I don't care if you like their talk or not. Everybody does the best they can here. It's fine to get, those of us who go out and speak quite a bit, we got kind of a gift of the gab. The real heroes in Alcoholics Anonymous are the coffee makers. Those are the people, the coffee makers. The people who put out the literature, the guys at the door, the greeters. And I have been to places in this country and walked into meetings in this country where if I'd have been new, I would have died. Because nobody said hello to me. It was like they were sitting in their own little world and didn't give a poo-poo about what I was or if I had a problem. I was at a meeting in one of your neighboring states that shall remain nameless not very long ago, and those things happened. I was not greeted at the door. Some yahoo sat in the back and talked during the whole meeting. And the next day, I went to a maximum security federal penitentiary to carry a meeting. And they listened. And they didn't swear. And they were polite. And they respected Alcoholics Anonymous. There was a great contrast there. And I am kind of preaching. But I feel so strongly about this because I want Alcoholics Anonymous to be preserved in its entirety for my grandson and my granddaughter. I want it to be alive for yours. I want it to be the same as it was when I walked in the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, where people literally folded me in their arms in a sort of a rough way, because, they were not kind to me. I don't mean that, but they paid attention to me. They saw to it that my sponsor walked up to me and I had gotten dressed up for my first meeting. I was a quart of vodka a day drinker. My sister had tried to get me shaped up. Remember how we used to shape up? We'd get all shaped up. And I had quit bathing probably 6 months before I got sober because I had waked up in the bathtub with the water up to here and I considered bathing dangerous, so I quit bathing. I didn't quit drinking, I quit bathing, and I had so much alcohol in my system that the little synapses that usually fire in your brain, to tell you things and make you, it does everything. It just powers your heart and does all kinds of things. This is, by the way, scientifically sound, but it does sound a little weird. And these little things are tickling each other, and when we drink, they go like that. And when the spark jumps across these little babies, it fries the ends of them. And so we get like fried brain, it's just like you can hear it sizzling. In addition to that, it causes your hair to die because your hair just like flat gives up the ghost, or at least mine did. And it looked like a bunch of shredded wheat stuck all over my head. And so my sister says, the problem is you really look like you've been rode hard and put up wet. Why don't we do something with your hair? So she frosted it. Well, the only problem with that is when your hair is dead and is full of alcohol anyway, when they put that chemical on, it reacts to the chemical that's in there, and it caused me, instead of looking silvery and streaky like it's supposed to, I ended up with big orange spots all over my head, which then died and broke off, and I had these big holes all over my head, and they kind of itched where the hair was growing in, so the first weeks and months in AA, I spent going around like Ken's men's group, and she walked up and I wore a gray pair of stretch pants and a blue turtleneck sweater, and that was my drinking uniform. And I had changed out of my drinking uniform to go to this meeting, and she walked up to me and said, "You look new." And I said, I was hurt, of course, and I said something like, "How do you know?" And she said, "Doesn't matter, I'm your sponsor." And Ken said it last night, and I've loved everybody. I love all these people. They're all good friends of mine, except Linda I hadn't met before, but she's already a friend of mine. What was I saying? See, the synapses aren't firing anymore. Now what? Oh, yeah. Like Ken said last night, I had nothing to do with that. People interview me now to sponsor them. They take me out to lunch and stuff. It's like they have a questionnaire, that says, what does she do? How old is she? Is she mean? What are all these requirements? I had nothing to do with that. She walked up to me and said, "I'll be your sponsor." She was being of service. And I had that sponsor until I moved to Nebraska in 1975. And it was God's hand. It was in His hands. And I'm still here and I'm still sober. It was a God stance. You know how they say it's happenstance? It was a God stance. It was in His hands. And she taught me everything. She taught me all those things I talked about. She taught me how to be of service. She said to me, "Listen, you gotta, help somebody." I said, "I don't want to help anybody." And she said, "I don't care if you want to help anybody. you're selfish and self-centered. And in our book it says selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our problem. It doesn't say was the root of our problem. Even today it doesn't say that in my book. It says is, which means I'm still selfish and self-centered. I'm the original Miss Piggy. I want everything. I want now. Wow, 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 moi, moi, moi. I want the whole banana now. Quickly, in fact. In everything. Money, sex, power, prestige. I want what? And she said, get out of yourself and greet people. I said, I don't want to be greeted. Well, you're going to be greeter. So I would stand at the door of my group. I have a home group. I've always had a home group. I'm a 4-meeting-a-week person. I think meeting makers make it. And I'm standing at the front of this group, and I'm going, welcome to the friendship group. Welcome to the friendship group. That was really my home group name. It was on the grounds of the Washington Cathedral. It's still today as a group, St. Albans Church. And gradually, and the idea was that I was just afraid. I was terrified. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't want to greet people. I didn't want to touch people. I didn't want people touching me. And it is a measure of my freedom that I love to hug people. I love to kiss people. I like to see people. I will always shake your hand if you come to my group. I think that first touch of a human hand when we are so isolated from each other and from ourselves is so important. So if you have a chance to be a greeter, please be a greeter. Don't be sulky. Just go do it, like I had to do it. After all, poop does roll downhill. So if I had to do it, then I think that everybody has to do it. And I really think that the people that I sponsor, I get them to do that. So I was greeter. Then just when I got good at it, I went home and practiced and looked in the mirror and I said, welcome to the friendship group. And it says, and remember when you first smiled when you were first sober? It was like having an earthquake of my face. It was just, because my muscles were all down muscles like this, and I cried all the time. So she said, smile. And I go, it was like a grimace, and I would sit like this with my arms crossed and my knees crossed and tight and closed and like this. And I had peripheral neuropathy and all this stuff was like fried, so I would reach out sometimes and I go like that, just like strike people, and it was, my knee would be so tense that it would kick out, so my sponsor set me on the end of the table, so I wouldn't kick anybody. But it's all possible. So then just when I got good at greeting, they made me go back in the kitchen and wash cups with Frank. Well, this was a guy named Crazy Frank. He was really big. He was like 6'6" or something. He was big and ugly and mean looking. And I don't want to go wash cups with Frank. He scares me. She said, oh, he's just new, he's just new. So I said, and I wasn't that old, 6 months, 9 months, something like that. She said, we had real cups too. And so we had to go wash cups. And she said, make conversation with him. You got to start learning how to talk to people. You don't know much, but you can know something. So make conversation with him. So I go back in there, and so we're washing the cups away and everything. And I had been thinking, that's bad. That's really bad. But in this case, it was pretty good. I had been thinking. And he was really tall, and he was a painter. He painted houses. So I said to him, so Frank, and he goes, yeah. He hardly ever said anything. Yeah. I said, must be nice for you, being tall. And he said, why? I said, you don't have to use a ladder when you paint the ceilings. He goes, I had made somebody's day. I was so thrilled. I mean, then I wanted to wash cups with Frank all the time. And then they made me on ashtrays. They put me on ashtrays. We just get so we're doing it right, and then we have to change jobs. It's the way it is in AA forever and ever. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I told Harlan, and I tell this, and I don't want to offend anybody, but this is just my sense of humor, okay? I was at a conference about 2 or 3 months ago, and there was a guy wandering around. He had this little box. It was a kind of a nice little box, a little wood box with gold trim on it and everything. And I said to somebody, I said, what's this guy with the box? And somebody said, well, that's his sponsor. And I said, I've heard about people having doorknobs and light bulbs and stuff being their higher power and stuff, but I never heard of anybody with a box. And I noticed that when he sat down, he put this box right next to him, on his knee or something, and he'd prop it open. So finally I said, what do you mean this thing is boxed? No, that's his sponsor. I said, what do you mean? It was his sponsor. It was his sponsor's ashes in this box. Now wait a minute. But he was being a service because he would prop it open so the guy could listen to the meeting. And I thought, my first thought was, I love AA. Nowhere in the world are you going to get this bunch of people together and happy. So, I've always been really weird, and AA really fit me. Because I was telling somebody there's left brain people and right brain people, and I'm really right brained. I have a thought, and I don't know, it like goes through the ozone, it just kind of goes out my head and through, and I have like Chuck Chamberlain used to say, Grand Central Head. I have trains coming and going out of my station all the time. And sometimes I jump on, and sometimes I just let them go by, and I used to worry about this. I used to think, Peggy, you're really nuts. You're just nuts. And I thought, but you know what? I don't care. I'm happy. And, I'm happy, and I'm useful. And besides, there's a lot of nuts in here. So I fit right in. So, I don't worry about that anymore. But out there, when I was drinking, I worried about that. And I would be, on the one hand, I felt like I was very bright. I was measured an IQ of 170. And on the other hand, I'm down here and I'm really stupid, and I'm thinking everybody's going to find out, when is the student going to show up? When is your potential going to be put in motion? On the other hand, I think I'm so smart. What am I doing in this school anyway? Why don't I just graduate, or whatever? And I'd be this terrible tension between those two things. And I'd take a drink, and it's like, it just made it all go away. I was on an airplane to Chicago a year ago, St. Patrick's Day. And I was going up there to speak at an AA corned beef and cabbage dinner. And I hate flying. Well, it's not that I hate flying. I hate crashing and burning is what I hate. And so I'm very busy. Even though I am sitting still, I'm very busy on an airplane. I'm listening to the motor. I get visual contact with the pilot. I look at the wings. I examine the paint job of the plane when I get on. I am very busy. And I also do crossword puzzles to keep Alzheimer's at bay. And so I'm doing crossword puzzles, and I'm listening to the engine, and I'm watching the flight attendants. How do they look? Do they look serious? What's the weather like? I've got all of these trains coming and going out of the station. And there's 2 seats next to me, and there's 2 girls get on the plane. They're in Omaha, and they're very happy, and they're very, very nice, and they're having a good time and everything. And they come down, sit next to me, and I know they're drinking. I mean, you know, when you've been sober for a while, you can smell somebody drinking 10 blocks away. You know, I mean, they were drinking. And they were happy, and they were having a good time. As soon as we took off and got up in the air, they got 2 miniatures each and 1 Coke. And they split the Coke, and they poured the miniatures into these little glasses, and they slammed those puppies back. Remember, somebody else was talking about this. Just back like this. Ooh. Sit down like that. Never move the ice cubes. It just goes right down the hatch, down there. And they slammed those babies back, and they'd been laughing and talking up to them. And it got real quiet. I'm listening over there, and I'm flying the plane. I'm doing my crossword puzzles, and I hear this girl say, leans over to her friend, she goes, I feel so spiritual. I almost handed her one of my cards. I almost said, you know, honey, in about 2 or 3 years, why don't you come see me? Because that's why I drank. It just put it together. It just took this frightened, angry, belligerent, confused, disparate, torn apart person and just brought her back together again. It just made me whole. And you know, I have a very nice family. I think a lot of people have said that this weekend. I had good parents. I have a good brother and sister. My family was not sick. It was an ordinary family. It was not wonderful, but it was not sick. I had a great upbringing. I had great opportunities. I have been to school on 3 different continents. I have been to school. I have learned languages. I have had great jobs translating and interpreting. I have had all the opportunities and the advantages that my family could give me, and yet I felt less than. I felt scared, terrified, not able to cope with life, afraid of loving, afraid of dying, afraid of living, just afraid. And but I kept up the front. There was always that front with me. My education was always so important to me. It was always important to me that you knew that I was smart, and I was always terrified that you were going to walk in and find out how dumb I was. That even sometimes today at work, I'll be sitting in my office and I'll think, if they ever come in here and ask me, I won't know where the grown-up is. I sometimes still feel inadequate and insecure and afraid. But I have a program and I have a book, as Ken has called it from time to time, an owner's manual, that helps me be everything that I can be. It relieves me of the bondage of self. Every day when I say that prayer, I can pretty much tell where I am. Because some days I get down on my knees and I go, God, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, the victory over them may bear witness to Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always, and I mean it. I mean it. I mean it. I'm in bad shape. And then some days I'm bigger than the rules. And I go, God, I offer myself to Thee. Now deal with me and do with me as Thou wilt. I mean, I could get a tent. And isn't it funny how when we think we're just terrible and we're just down there and we're depressed, that It's the natural state of alcoholics to be depressed. It's our natural condition. I don't know what people are saying. I have clinical depression. Welcome to the group. I mean, there's a bunch of us in here with it. It's like Polly said yesterday. What I had to do, it's terrible to bring Freudian things into the meeting because it doesn't belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not a psychological program. This is a spiritual program. The bottom line is, get out of myself and help somebody else. There are always people who are better off than me, but there's always someone worse off. There are people sitting in the audience when that energy was going on with the countdown who were thinking, I'm going to go home and blow my head off because I don't feel like these people feel. Welcome to the group. The deal with AA is this is not a 30-minute sitcom. You don't have the problem and the solution in 30 minutes. It's 33 years and counting for me. I'm still looking for some of the solutions to problems. But it's so much better. Look at the sobriety that we have in this room. But being sober doesn't guarantee that you're going to be happy all the time. It only guarantees me a chance. And it's a privilege. The greatest thing I think too many times we think, because this is the way alcohol is, for me anyway, it was an instant solution. You scared? Drink. Gone. You afraid? Drink. Gone. You worried? Drink. Gone. Anxious? Drink. Gone. Afraid of sex? Drink. Great. Ugly? Drink. Gone. Clumsy? Drink. Gone. Immediately. With AA, it takes years. But my sponsor said something to me. She hurt my feelings. She hurt my feelings many times, but one of the times she said, what are you sulking about? I said, well, you hurt my feelings. She said, hurt your feelings? I said, I'm really sensitive. She said, you're not sensitive, you're a touchy bitch. Which is true, because to be sensitive, I had to be aware of other people. Think about it. I have to be aware of the sunlight. To be sensitive, I have to think about you. I wasn't sensitive. I was so consumed with self, so in that dirty little bubble that I had built around myself, that I just couldn't even see out. Everything was about me. And when I get into bad places today where I'm bigger than the rules, it's because everything is about me. If it's about you, I seem to have a certain objectivity to your problems. I don't seem to have the same emotional investment in your problem as you do, for example, which is why I have a sponsor. She keeps me accountable. I'm accountable. I need to be accountable. Because, I take walks. Polly talked about this. And I take walks in my own head. And it's dark. And there's lots of dog poop in my head. And I need a flashlight. But see, I don't have my own flashlight. I'm not allowed. I have a flashlight for you. You understand what I'm saying? But I don't have my own flashlight. My sponsor has my flashlight. And if I don't invite her into my head with me on these walks, I end up stepping in dog poop every time. And she comes along with the flashlight and she goes, "Oh, I see that you've taken another trip with yourself." "Oh, watch out. Oh, I see you've already stepped in it." Oh, well. 2 years ago, I got myself into a situation. 2 years ago, 31 years sober, and I got a resentment. Oh, fancy that. An alcoholic with a resentment. And I finally, of course, when all else fails, called my sponsor and told her about this resentment. So I'm going to Vancouver, Canada, to speak, and I'm going to speak in front of this beautiful place. This gorgeous place, big old windows in this hotel. You look over downtown. She said, she's so cute. Well, sometimes. She's a little old lady, gray-haired. She's been sober longer than I am, which is, I think, for me anyway, it's a prerequisite of sponsorship. She's been chopping down the weeds in the jungle a little bit longer than me, and I've been following in her footsteps. And she said, while you're up there in that beautiful Vancouver, why don't you take a pen and some paper and write yourself a little gratitude list? And I thought, I wonder why I didn't think of that. Because I have been assigning people to write gratitude lists for 33 years. But see, I don't have my own flashlight. So I'm up there writing. I had 4 full pages, yellow legal pad of things to be grateful for. Somehow, the resentment faded. And of course, I prayed for her as well. And when I do, I don't want to be blocked from the sunlight of the Spirit. When I have a resentment, it blocks me from the sunlight of the Spirit because I'm always thinking about them. Every time their name comes up, every time somebody mentions them, every time somebody says, oh, that's the meeting so-and-so goes to, You know, I've learned enough to keep my mouth shut, but that doesn't change what happens inside of me. And I need to tell on myself. And when I tell on myself, it's as though I have this big cosmic zipper. And I unzip. And I take out a big toothbrush like this, and I hand it to God, and He goes and cleans me up on the inside. And then He zips me back up, and He pats me on the fanny, and He sends me off again for my reporting for duty. But I keep messing up. But I'll tell you what, I have a chance. And I had no chance whatsoever when I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous. The biggest struggle that I've had in Alcoholics Anonymous, the biggest problem that I have had is being not God. I have always been bigger than the rules. I have always, even today, when I get in a bad place, it's because I think somehow I should either be an exception to the rule or bigger than it because I'm so special, or it won't matter for me because of who I am. I can't be bigger than the rules. Because what's bigger than the rules? Bigger than the rules for me, Ken talked about last night, the ritual and spiritual. Bigger than the rules for me is saying, I go to 4 meetings a week. Well, maybe I'll just go to 3. Bigger than the rules for me is, you don't have to make amends to him or her or them. I mean, after all, think of who you are. Bigger than the rules for me is, why should you have to make a 12-step call. You've made hundreds of them. Bigger than the rules is thinking that I can tell a little lie and get away with it. Bigger than the rules is thinking that I don't have to take care of a situation that I'm involved in which I may have had some wrong. Bigger than the rules is believing that I don't have to continue to do the deal. Bigger than the rules is ego. Ego. Easing God out. Ego. Hey, every single one of us in this room has an ego. All humans have an ego. It's just that mine is so big. And it's so fragile. That's the nature of my alcoholism. I remember when I got sober, I had really long hair. And I got it cut. And somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, your hair looks really nice." And I said, "What's the matter? Didn't you like it the other way?" All about me. It doesn't have to be all about me anymore. The most comfortable days of my life are days in which there's a definition of humility that says humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And the days that I go through when I don't think about myself at all, well, that doesn't happen. But I mean, the days that I think about myself less are the happiest days I have. It's the most joy. We were talking last night about, you remember when you were a kid? And it doesn't matter what you got joy out of. I used to have that sheer feeling of joy, just like a yippee! Just, yes! And today, I'll get that. Just every once in a while, I'll get that sense of sheer, unadulterated joy. Now, when I was a kid, and when I was growing up and as an alcoholic, that joy came from a lot of things, like punching people. I love to punch people. And I would get joy out of just going, swack! Just like that. I just love punching people. I'm a great Nebraska football fan. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. That's an illness in itself. Yes. Anyway, go Pack. Anyway, they're my very favorite. I live and die in football season. I have season tickets to Nebraska Cornhusker. I remember stopping off. I'd gone to this really goofy retreat in which it was terrible. I hated it. There were all these inner children running around, and I was having a real serious nervous breakdown, and I just wanted to find the babysitter, I was just awful. And it was really bad. It was really bad. And I got on this airplane and I flew and I stopped off in Kansas City and I got on and I went to the ball game and I got into the stadium and I sat down with my AA buddies and I go, oh, the first big, huge, crunching hit. Oh, I felt better. I felt better. I'm just strange, I'm a real aggressive person on the one hand, and I'm so afraid on the other hand, and I like blood and guts on the one hand, and I'm an artist. I do the big old diaphanous watercolors on the other hand, and I love Andy Warhol on the one hand, and I like ballet on the other, but when I dance, I like rock and roll, and I'm just all of these. I read mystery stories on the one hand, but there's nothing I like better than reading Marcel Proust, which is like an exercise in God knows what. And I would just, I do crossword puzzles on the one hand, and on the other hand, I like Wheel of Fortune, I admit it. I am so sorry, but I have a flight at 2-something. So I have to leave right after I finish talking. I hate doing that because I'd love to have your hugs and stuff. But look at it this way. If you hated my talk, at least you don't have to pretend. But let me just tell you, I met and married my husband in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had a baby die in Alcoholics Anonymous. I had a lot of suffering and grief over that. I have a son who is a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous for 8 years, who's married to an 11-year member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have a little grandson, Joe. And I mean, my husband is my best friend. My husband is my running buddy. My husband is my soulmate. My husband is my challenge. My husband is he is such a funny man, and he looks so conservative, and he isn't. He's just different than he looks. He's a businessman, and he's a very bright businessman and a very left-brain person, which is very good because it sort of balances this one out. You know, I like to think he is my rock and I am his entertainment. You know, that is the truth. And any of you who know him know that he is that way. Well, when we were first married, we did not have any money. None. And we had made a decision at Christmas that we were not going to get each other any presents. And so, he came home from work. We were living in an efficiency apartment. He came home from work, and he said, I got you a present. Well, of course, my bigger-than-the-rules brain was going, and this was not the agreement. You know, you were going to do this, you were going to do that, you know, and besides, I didn't get you one. And so, you know, it's the old alcoholic one-upmanship and stuff. And I never said anything. I just stood there, and he went into the bathroom. And about 30 seconds later, the bathroom door bangs open, and he jumps out stark naked with a big red bow tied you know where. And he goes, here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus. That's my husband. He has taught me things that I never knew existed. Because when I first got married, sex was to me something you should do very in the dark and quiet. Don't make any noise, you know, no noise at all. And he'd just, yay, you know, scream. And I learned how to just let it loose, you know, and it's just really, because it's, anyway, I mean, you know. Today, you know, he's 65 and I'm almost 60. It is a spiritual experience. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't make it any less fun. Just not as frequent. Because most of my sexual experiences drinking, I was not present. I mean, let's face it. Anyway, off of sex. I had to laugh when they asked me to speak on Sunday morning. Anyway. But this search for God. You know, I thought, how, you know, here I am. I was raised in the 50s and 60s. I mean, we thought in the 50s that we were just the big cheese. Big cheeses. We knew it all. We were the be-all and end-all. God was for people in South America who needed Him. I mean, I'm sorry, that's my generation. But it says in our book, lack of power, that was our dilemma. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. And I want to tell you something. If you're sitting in this audience, I wish something for you. And it may not seem like it's a gift. But it was something I was given when I walked in the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous first off. And it has been given to me at points in my sobriety since then. And I know that it has been given to Ken again. I was given the gift of desperation. I didn't have a single better idea when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. Not one. If I had had one, you'd have a different speaker. I have been given moments of desperation in my sobriety when my bigger-than-the-rules mentality has placed me beyond human aid. And I have been given the gift of desperation and the ability and the tools in Alcoholics Anonymous to act in a loving God. Oh, my God. You know, when I was sober 15 years, I thought I was about as good as I was going to get. I thought I was about as well as I was going to get. I thought, this is it. I'm just going to trudge the road of happy destiny. I'll be sober, but I ain't going to be happy. Because I was bigger than the rules. I was bored. Oh, 12 and 12. Oh, fun. You know, meetings. Sponsorship. Nice old lady. You know, it was just awful. But I thought I was good. I thought this was as good as it was going to get. Had I known. It was so much better. I can't even begin to tell you how much better it's gotten over the last 18 years. It's not even comparable. Because what I have is inside. It is this power, the love, the feeling of being held in God's hands. Like big hands. And I'm sitting in them. In a way, I see God in strange ways. I'm a strange person. And it may not be the way you see him. I hear him in music. I have a Jeep, and I have a stereo in it, and I put Taco Bell's Cannon on. And I'll go driving to the jail. Not to go in it, but to take a meeting or something. And I'll turn that baby up, and it'll just be blasting this primitive piece of music that is just incredible. And I'll just say, oh, thanks. And I'll see things that I think God provides. I told you I hate to fly. I'm going to Little Rock. I'm supposed to go to Little Rock in this airplane that it's very small. It looks like a dragonfly. I don't like those kind of planes. And I get on, and the guy says, we got to balance the plane. Oh, God! Says there's bad weather in Fayetteville. I don't want to go to Fayetteville. Well, we got to stop there, it seems. So we take off, and I mean, it is like just terrible. It's just, and I'm like Red Fox, you know, I'm going, I'm coming, this is a big one, you know, this is the big one. And I always wear my medallion when I fly. Okay, here it is. I'm holding on to my medallion. Oh, God, please, get me to Fayetteville, or get me wherever. Get me to Little Rock. I'll cook dinner every night. I'll never swear again. I'll be the best mom. I'll be the best grandma. I'll be all these, you know. And I'm grabbing on this thing, and I look behind, and it's like we can't get into Fayetteville. There's ice all over the runway. He goes into land, and he has to take off again, and the stall alarm goes off. Wah, wah, wah. Oh, my God. Oh. I hear this rustling behind me. I turn around. There's a woman back there with a brown paper sack. She pulls out a bottle of Smirnoff vodka. She takes the lid off, and she takes a big chunk out of it like this, and I felt better. God sent me that lady with the bottle of vodka. My God did. I can have any God I want. I'm in San Jose, California. And it's sunny and beautiful, and we're out in the amphitheater watching Sadie the Souse. It's a cute play. Or Susie the Souse or something. And they're singing, but I'm humming, because, I mean, there's 5,000 people. That's 10,000 eyeballs. I got to go up and talk in front of them. I'm scared. I'm self-centered. Wah, wah. You're going to get up there and you're not going to be able to say a thing. They won't pay your airline ticket and you'll be broke, and then you'll have to walk back to Bellevue, Nebraska. What are you going to do when you get up there? You're going to say, oh, go Big Red. You know, rah, rah, rah. Just humming, humming. I felt something wet hit my hand. I looked up. Not a cloud in the sky. I look down, it's white. Lady sitting next to me, I had on a yellow silk speaking dress. Lady sitting next to me goes, "Woo, woo, a bird has crapped on your back." Oh, it must have been a seagull. I mean, it was huge. It was like this. And it had lumps in it. And I thought, for some people, they sing. For me, they crap. I mean, is this... But, you know, it was funny. I thought, all you got to do is go carry the message. You know, carry the message. You'll be okay. You know, who cares? You know, you're just a broad from Nebraska. Go be God's tool, you know. Shut up. You know, kind of. Shut up and grow up, you know. And I just thought it was funny. God sent me that bird. He sent me those two girls in the plane. You know, there are so many experiences that if I just stop and appreciate them and look at them, like this beautiful country around here. I grew up a lot in Scotland, and this coast reminds me of the coast of Scotland, the Firth of Forth. I mean, you know, when I was a kid, I had those kinds. I would go there every summer. And you freeze your butt off, but you go. I mean, it's cold up there. But it's beautiful in a raw and rugged beauty, you know, and I can appreciate that now. I really can see that now. I can see it. And the way I see God is, I'm a great animal lover. I love it. Oh, God, I just love animals. I have 2 old dogs. And one of them was diagnosed, had this big lung tumor. And I'm in the vets over Christmas, and I'm crying on top of this little dog, you know. Oh, my God, you know, because I told Mary Pearl, I'm not letting her, I can't do it. She's going to die at home in my arms if I can do it that way. But she's still alive. They told me she was going to die, and she had this really terrible cough, and I took her home. And this is April. And she's not got a cough, and she's fine. So, you know, but I love animals. I feed animals. I do all kinds. I see God in animals. I was in South Carolina not too long ago. Oh, it had been 2 or 3 years ago, I guess. And I love the ocean. I go to Duck, North Carolina every year. We've got a house over there, and we go for my family comes, and we all lay out there and get melanoma and everything, but there's something healing about being next to the sea. There is just something healing about and ageless and powerful about the waves in the ocean. And so anyway, I rushed down. We were going out to dinner. It was dark, very dark. We were going out to dinner, and I rushed down to the seawall, and I look over the seawall. And they had been doing some construction behind this restaurant where we were going, and there were these bright lights. And there was, right out to the ocean, there was this path of light, just a direct path of light. And in the path of the light, just in the light, were thousands of seagulls, just there. And of course I'm so, you know, I don't want to be what of this mushy. So when we went to the restaurant, I said to the lady, "What's with the birds?" And she said, "Oh, I don't know, but we think it's the light." Of course it's the light. It's safe in the light. What are we doing here? Aren't we sitting in the light? Isn't this the light? Isn't the light the absence of dark? Isn't the light where God is? So when we're sitting in the sunlight, of the Spirit. We are sitting at God's table. Be still and know that I am God. It's hard for me to do that. But it's one of the meditations that I practice. Being still and feeling. I was walking the dogs a couple of years ago in Nebraska. It was really cold. We got like 16 inches of snow just before I came here, Thursday and Friday. But this was in February or March, and it was like 60 below. I mean, it was really cold with the wind chill. And I'm walking the dogs, and Vic is gone someplace, but he and I walk the dogs every day together. And it is our time. And he was out of town, so I had the dogs, and I got Cuckoo's this fat little bowling ball, the one with the lung tumor, that is defying all the odds. And Charlie's the hound. And Cuckoo doesn't need a leash because she just sticks with Mommy. And Charlie has to have a leash. But I have him on a 30-foot leash. You know, so he can feel independent. Well, I'm a dog person. What can I tell you? And, I mean, I'm not the only one, right, Murph? JD and Murph are that way, too. But anyway. And so, as a matter of fact, all my friends are. So I had on my down coat, and Cuckoo had on her pink coat, and, you know, and it's the kind of day where you breathe in and icicles get in your nose, you know, or it freezes the stuff. And I'm going along like this. Well, every day I feed foxes. I've fed foxes for years. I was a family of foxes that lives down to the park where I walk the dogs, or walk the dogs. And I love watching them, and Dick gave me a pair of binoculars so I could watch them. And I love it because I see, when I'm in nature, I see God. We were talking about what we would want to do. And we would really want to do certain things. And I would like to be a watcher. I'd like to watch. And I love watching animals. So I'm walking the dogs, and I take this leftover dog food with me. And their very favorite is Chinese food. They love leftover Chinese food, and I take the Chinese food down there. And I always say the same thing. I dump the food out, and I always say, here's your breakfast, Foxies. So this particular day, I'm walking down, really cold. Most of the time, I would have to get a half a block away before I could see them. They come up, because they're really shy. They're wild. And so I use the binoculars, and I watch them, and I watch them in the spring with their little kits, and I just love them. I love watching animals. So I dump out the food, and I say, here's your breakfast, Foxy. And I turn to go home. And I felt something. Now, I spent years walled up in a prison I built myself, so I didn't have to feel anything. This is terrible. I'm always a terrible crier. I get snot running out of my nose. But I felt something, and I looked over my shoulder, and as close as Zan and Linda are, sat the fox. And he was looking right at me in the eyes. And while I was watching, he sat down. And in one paw at a time, he lay down in front of me. And I think that he was saying thank you. Thank you for all the times you've done this. It only took 5 seconds. But if I hadn't been with you and with God and out of myself, I could have missed it all. So like the fox, I want to thank you. God bless.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.